Hello and welcome to this video. This is a reaction video to a video by Emma Thorne, so you can see there. Now, I've criticized certain actions in the past that they have done, but I've also published a video on really how Christianity and Christmas are kind of heavily separated at this point. And basically, yeah, let's sort of talk about that. Let's see if they hit some of the points that I was
He
hitting.
died at 930 years old because he kept track of how old he was.
That's right, Adam.
What? Where did you wait? What?
Adam, he died at 930 years old.
You died at, okay. Not okay, yeah, okay. Where'd you get that idea out of?
Because he kept track of how old he was.
That's right, Adam died at 930 years old. We're going to bring that up casually and pretend that it's true, and nobody's going to say a single thing. I urge you, I encourage you, do it over Christmas. Do it as a Christmas celebration. Read the Bible cover to cover.
Now, here's the thing. The Bible is filled with weird stuff. But it's also filled with interesting lessons. And what's interesting about the Bible is it's heavily changed over the years. And I'll probably talk about this later in the video. That sort of thing. Like, it's heavily changed.
Atheist tells everyone to read the Bible for Christmas. That's a headline. Hello, lovely people. Welcome to my channel. My name is Emma. Welcome if you are new. I love Christmas.
I'm not new, but
I love it. Okay, the day itself can be a bit stressful depending on how many people are around, but I love buying people presents. I love...
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, that doesn't work as well when you have economic troubles, but anyway, yeah.
roast parsnips and flashing colourful lights.
By the way, a little fact, it's been thought that Christmas lights actually interfere with your Wi-Fi. So yeah, that's just a little interesting fact there for you, in case you're wondering.
Christmas is amazing. It's one of my favourite times of year. It's even snowing right now in London.
That's unusual.
It's a Christmas miracle. Today I'd like to bring my own perspective to a couple of questions that crop up around the festive season. The first of which should be pretty brief. Should non-Christians celebrate Christmas?
I would say yes. Not necessarily with the title of Christmas. You might know that Xmas, for example, was used before the word Christmas, which is incredibly funny when fascists, Nazis that are also Christians, or well, say they're Christians anyway, are like, yeah, they want this war on Christmas. They use words like Xmas. It's like, well, actually, Xmas is older than Christmas, so if you want to talk about tradition and everything, But anyway, that's just the thing.
First of all, it's important to remember that December is a holiday season, not just for Christian celebrations. You have...
Yeah, I mean, I use the word Christmas because it's the easiest option available, and also because Christmas is inherently not Christian. Like, it's just kind of not. Like, there obviously, Christ was a real person. Christ actually was born, but he wasn't born in December, wasn't born on the 25th of December, and, all these things. And a lot of the things around Christmas, as you will have heard if you watched my video, are, they're not really related to the modern. Like, the modern stuff has got nothing to do with the actual Christian religion. It's just a holiday, like just time off work, that sort of thing. Celebration of, I don't know. It's like Halloween, basically. It's pagan in origin.
Hanukkah, you have Kwanzaa, you have Yule. There's no reason people from those different religions can't all celebrate together.
Funnily enough, those different religions actually have proper dates. Christianity was just like, yeah, we're just gonna change the date just to this one. Yeah, just get more people into our religion. So to be fair to those religions, they actually, can actually say, well, I know we've had this for what, like, this is our thing,
together and have a merry December time. While the central theme of Christmas Day itself is obviously the birth of the little baby Jesus,
which is not true.
Christmas as a holiday is largely secular now. It's become a global cultural and commercial phenomenon.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do say that. Like, even priests are like, I don't particularly like the way that Christmas is become commercialized, and I don't necessarily think that that's very true. It's like, okay, but inherently the reason why it is in December is because you wanted to have a celebration in December so that you could get the Germans in. So it really is a marketing strategy to begin with. The entire idea of having it in December is a marketing strategy to get the Germans in.
It just has. In this country, Christmas and the days around it are national holidays, so unless you are unfortunate and working in food retail or something like that, bless you, I hope you get lots and lots of tips and good overtime.
To be honest, I think inherently you should try and hire workers out for the day that's in it. Just say, no, you're a general worker, you take your holidays, there you are, pay someone for the day even, and just go, there you are, that's a little Christmas present for you. You don't have to come into work, we still pay, and then get someone else in. Someone who doesn't really care, Because I think inherently, because if you get that second person in, that person who isn't working there ordinarily, and maybe they come in, you can even get volunteers in probably. Okay, maybe not for the commercial jobs, but for some things you get volunteers in, because it's just a day, and you're not, as long as you're not using the general workers, then it's like, okay, well, you're not necessarily pressuring someone this much, Obviously, it doesn't matter if it's like, oh, it's just a day, but if you're using general workers, then it's like, yeah, but it's a day in addition to all the other days, so it doesn't. But anyway, I'm getting off point.
Time. You get those days off. So naturally, people engage in Christmas traditions of celebrating with family and cooking a big meal, and Christmas has become symbolic for the time of giving. It's a time of altruism. It's a time where we are particularly dedicated to giving to charity and helping those in need. I can't see anyone who is genuinely trying to live their life in a Christ-like way having a problem with people celebrating those things in a secular way.
Well, to be fair, if someone's living the Christ-like way, they wouldn't be pro the commercialism of it, would they? They would be like, yeah, go ahead, buy all the presents for people and just, yeah, this is very capitalist, isn't it? I don't think Jesus was really like a good capitalist, to be honest. Talking about, how the wealthy man shouldn't be given what they're being given and how he shouldn't pay or tax the Romans. That seems like not very aligned with the capitalist style thing of like, yeah, let's just spend money and go into massive debt. I guess that's one of the good things about, not being, is that myself, I'm not really able to go into as much debt because banks are not going to hand me our loans.
So, yes, I think anyone can celebrate Christmas. You can celebrate it in a secular way because it is mostly these days about meeting your family, doing good deeds, eating chocolate. I'm not sure what that part's about or where that came from.
I mean, I wouldn't really... Oh, you mean like the advent calendars and selection boxes? Oh, yeah. I guess that's just like a selling thing. That's just a commercial thing. Like, oh, how do we make people pay more for chocolate? How about we bundle them into a box, and like half the chocolate will be just the bad versions. Like, Cadbury's have like double decker or whatever. It's like that's actively disgusting. Unless you like it, in which case it's nice.
Came from candy canes? No idea. These are not the fundamental aspects of Christmas that I'm interested in personally, but if you know, let me know in the comments where candy canes and shit came from. So okay, can non-Christians celebrate Christmas? Yes, definitively. Easy. Something less prevalent, but in my opinion even more interesting, a question that crops up from time to time around this time of year. Should Christians be celebrating Christmas? Obviously, my personal answer is going to be the same as the one I just gave, because yes, everyone...
But see, that the point is, but it depends what you mean by it. It's like, should Christians, as Christians, celebrate Christmas? Not really. It's a sham thing. You can celebrate the birth of Christ in like February or, I forget actually the exact date of Christ's birth, but as I said before, wasn't December 25th, wasn't even in December, wasn't January, wasn't November. It's not really the actual time that they put there. And that's the point. So it's actually a sham thing that was used to get other people into the group. So if you're a Christian and you actually you want to stick to the actual birth date, you wouldn't just go like, if some politician was like, I actually feel people are very miserable around the time of my birthday, so I'm gonna bring my birthday like forward or push it back so that like people can celebrate it, when times are a little bit happier and things are a little bit more cozy, because that's what I feel. It's like, yeah, well, I mean, that's a lie, though. You're lying about when, like, I can understand the idea of, like, well, birthdays, like, what do they even mean? But, like, you are lying about when that person was born, you know, in order to benefit out of it. So, you could argue, no, not as Christians, but as people, yeah.
Everyone can celebrate Christmas. But I think getting into the why of the question is actually very interesting. Christmas is basically the biggest celebration in the world. It's got to be the biggest religious celebration that...
I mean, I'm not sure. Like, Halloween is very, that comes from religion. That's a religious festival. You know. That's like Christmas. Like, well, if you just mean Christmas, like, then if you just mean Christmas in the Christian way, which Christians shouldn't be celebrating anyway, then it's not exactly, you know what I mean, like, in name, yeah.
That there is, surely. And yet, it's not supposed to be the biggest of the Christian celebration. It should be coming after Easter, Epiphany, celebrating the baptism of Jesus.
Why? No, I mean, like, why? There are certain cultures that do not like to celebrate death. Like, it's like, my country, there's celebration of death, obviously, but, like, there's, like, other countries do not feel comfortable with that. So why would you say necessarily that the celebration of someone's death and, that kind of thing would be the day? I know, obviously, it's also supposed to be the celebration of their rise, but, like, also, I mean, if there's a son of God, like, there's a son of God, does it matter when they rise?
Of Jesus, amongst
But
other things. Pentecost. Those things should all be more important, but Christmas is just bigger. Historically, early Christians did not celebrate the birthdays of anyone, really, any martyr, including Jesus Christ. One reason is that the date of his birth was disputed, and it's hard to have a celebration when you can't agree on when exactly the celebration is meant to be.
Yeah, the point is, it's disputed around, like, February, that sort of time. The point is, it's not, it's disputed. Was it in February, April, December? No, it's not in December. Simply by the fact of, like, it would just not match up with the historical evidence that's in the Bible, supposedly around the birth date. Which, by the way, the Bible was written hundreds of years after the death. Right? So you could argue, is the Bible even accurate there?
Now, the death and resurrection, huge deal. Jesus' birthday? Nah, Jesus never celebrated his birthday in the Bible. This is the reason that Jehovah's Witnesses, even today, don't celebrate birthdays at all, including their own. Because birthday celebrations have pagan origins. It was all about the death. Very morbid, early Christianity. Very morbid. Still kind of is, actually. Obviously, there are lots of...
people, like, celebrate the life of people, which is important, You don't want to be... It's not really all about death at the end of the day. It's more about, like, celebrating the life that person had.
Things that the Bible doesn't mention, because it's not really a catch-all for everything.
It's still kind of morbid. It's still kind of depressing, but, like, yeah.
Thing that life entails. But I guess some religious groups take that more seriously than others. As I mentioned in my previous to last video, the one before the last video, if you see what I'm saying, it turns out Answers in Genesis are our favourite young earth fundamentalist charity organisation.
Which is just another word for they're not taxed because they didn't want to pay tax. It's like, what do you do for charity? Yeah. I mean, you might want to, possibly, like, play down the amount of charity you're doing, because technically speaking, a lot of that could be considered discrimination, what you're doing there. Because you're like, we're giving this person stuff, but not this person. Because of our prejudice. It's like, okay, well, yeah, no, you're going to have problems there. So, yeah, basically most of these charity organizations are just, like, tax avoidance.
Has asked the same question. Should Christians celebrate Christmas? And I am intrigued to see how much of the origins of Christmas they go into. Don't know why I said into in such a strange way. It just kind of came out.
I mean, yeah, let's be honest, I'm probably not going to go to it because it's very profitable.
Out weird. So I thought we'd use that as a talking point. I mean,
as I've said already, though, like, if you're a capitalist, you're not a Christian. It's just a fact. Like, you're just not. Because you're going, oh yeah, I like to pick this thing, but not this thing. So it's like a religion, except you're just picking and choosing. Yeah, That's not you can't just be like, yeah, I believe this, but not. Okay, so then you're just having personal opinions then? That just seems like you're just like, yeah, you know? Like, I believe that Christ existed, you know? Like, does that make me a Christian? You know? I believe in many of the teachings of Christ. Does that make me a Christian? Does it? No, because I don't believe in everything that's in the Bible. You know what I mean? So if you don't believe in everything that's in the Bible, if you don't believe in everything that Jesus said, then how exactly are you a Christian then? So if you're a capitalist, basically, what I'm saying is you're not a Christian either.
I'm assuming they are going to talk about, just because there are these basics that we already know, that there are lots of pagan origins of Christmas. I assume they're going to dip into that, so maybe we can expand.
Mostly German. Like the tree is German, the time is German. I believe as well the candy canes on the tree are German as well. I believe actually. What was it? Oh, no, I'm not gonna
expand on
say
that
sure,
and learn a little bit about the pagan, the Roman origins of Christmas.
Yeah.
I assume they're going to talk about the fact that early Christians didn't celebrate the birth of Jesus. I assume basically they're going to touch on everything I just have. My conclusion from those things is that it doesn't matter. Christians should be able to celebrate Christmas. There's nothing in the Bible that says don't celebrate Christmas, and it's becoming...
Well, to be honest, that would be a bit weird, wouldn't it? Because it would be giving the game away, wouldn't it? It's like, yeah, this is written ignore that fact it was written like 200 years after the fact. Just ignore that. But also, do not celebrate this thing that could not have happened until like the person had. Oh yeah. I mean, it would be a bit weird if you celebrating Christmas at the same time as the person was alive. Like, oh, okay, but maybe don't do that. You know.
Become increasingly secular.
I guess, in fairness, though, like someone could say, by the way, guys, when I die, just do not celebrate my birthday, please, when I'm dead. Because I really would not like that. Like, there was, for example, some civil war, like, you know, the Confederacy, you know, the ones who wanted to keep slaves. Yeah, in the American Civil War, we're like, I don't think there should be statues of leaders in the Civil War because you're keeping divisions open. And that kind of thing, of course, were they listened to? No. There was a statue put above them. It's like, what? Sorry, what? Like, that's the point. They were like saying that. And that's so technically speaking, I guess you could be like, okay, don't celebrate it after I'm gone. Yeah. The thing is, it won't celebrate
anyway, so you can celebrate it non-religiously. And B, if you do believe Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, it seems like he wouldn't mind if you celebrated the day of his birth, right? Like, I can't see him having an issue with that. Unless you're a Jehovah's Witness, they believe it displeases God. It's not clear why, except for...
Yeah, that just seems like, yeah, I mean, you're basically just saying God is a conservative, just like, we can't change what? Suddenly people are celebrating birthdays? Suddenly, oh yeah, this is typical, isn't it? Okay, well, you know, in that case, every human should just go. Because, you know, we're all doing things which are, you know, technically speaking new, seeing as we're, you know, like, technically, oh wait, Jehovah's, do they believe in evolution? Maybe they don't. I'm not quite sure. Okay, if they don't, then yeah, that would make sense. Whether how that which just seems like double standards there. But anyway,
for extrapolating from minimal mentions of birthdays in the Bible. If you are or were a Jehovah's Witness, or you happen to know any, add more details in the comments because I am intrigued by
that would be weird if you are a Jehovah's Witness and you're watching this channel.
The hatred of birthdays, because I'm aware of there being a couple of birthdays celebrated in the Bible by non-believers.
But what is meant by that, though? Because inherently the Bible is supposed to be about, like, you know, pre-Jesus and current life Jesus. So, like, if you're a non-believer, that could range from anything from you're not Jewish, because obviously, you know, Jesus was Jewish, and then also, well, actually, basically, people around Jesus were Jewish. So that's the thing. So, like, well, then do you mean like they're not Jewish? But then that would include Christians, wouldn't it? But then Christians are also technically Jewish people with additional stuff added on, in a way, you know. So what's
and that, as far as I can tell, is the only sort of reasoning. Like, otherwise, they don't mention birthdays, but they don't mention like going to the toilet and stuff in the Bible either. So I don't know. Anyway.
There's probably a reason for that now.
Let's watch this Answers in Genesis video and talk about Christmas and have a
No,
lovely
I think
time.
the toilet was
I
not.
might have to take off my Christmas hat. I wonder if my Christmas hat will fit over my headphones or if that will be completely silly. No. No. So I'm not sure if I'm
You can try
losing my
earphones.
marbles or if the title has changed, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't. This video is called "Is Christmas Pagan?" I'm pretty sure it wasn't. I thought it was called "Should Christians Celebrate Christmas?" But
Okay,
maybe
well, to be fair, this is not the original title of this video either. I don't believe. I believe it was a different title. So who's changing their title as well. I don't know. I don't know why people do that with YouTube videos. Like, maybe YouTube does like give your video another spin in the algorithm. If you change the title, I'll have to test it out. But anyway, yeah, maybe it's a different one. Yeah.
maybe I'm confusing that with another video title. Could just be me. I'll have to check later.
Okay. What?
So-
Oh, that's the
I'll have to check later.
pitch meetings thing,
So is
By the way,
is
that game, don't download it because it's a fucking scam.
Christmas
Sorry.
pagan by Answers in
Didn't mean to
Genesis?
curse.
The description. Does Christmas actually have pagan origins? Should Christians say happy holidays? When was Christmas first celebrated? This video answers all of those questions and more. We are listening to Bodie Hodge. My brain just saw the words and wanted to say Bodie Hoagie. I'm so sorry. We're listening to Bodie Hodge and Rob Webb talk about Christmas. Okay, because I think that part of the reason that I'm sort of intrigued by the fact that the title is Christmas pagan is because I think that's kind of a mistake. Because Christmas, by definition, is not pagan. Yule is pagan.
Well, technically speaking, it's like, imagine if, you're a criminal, and there's a van driving along the road, and it's like Jimmy's cake. Jimmy's Cakes, and you tell the driver to get out, and you shoot the driver to the head, and then you put over your name, and then it says like your name Cakes. So technically, it would be your cakes, but it would be your cakes because you stole them, if you know what I mean. So it's like, is Christmas pagan would be like, okay, is it basically just a pagan tradition with Christmas slapped on, like just slapped on the front, just. There we are. Just slapped on it. Is that will be still technically pagan? It would just be like legally pagan, or you know what I mean, like actually pagan, just with a Christmas brand shoved over it. Like own brand goods. Where like most own brand goods are all produced in one area, one factory, or like one factory group, and then they're just slapped with their label on it. It's all from the same factory though. It's all from the same companies. But it's what their brand is slapped on. That's kind of the idea.
Pagan. If the title was "Does Christmas Have Pagan Origins?" it would kind of make sense. But
it's not about like origins. It's like, is the entire tradition basically just pagan with Christmas branding slapped on it? Like, yeah, it's the birth of a figure who you celebrate their birth of. The figure is no longer this person. It's Jesus Christ, even though that makes no sense and the Bible doesn't match that at all. Yeah. There we are. Indeed.
This title alone is kind of no, Christmas is Christian. Christmas is celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. It's a Christian celebration.
Yeah, but is it the pagan celebration of somebody else, and then it's just Jesus Christ is just slapped on, like, oh no, it's not that person. It's actually Jesus.
That just seems like a mistake to me. I don't know. Surprisingly, I don't always agree with Answers in Genesis, so maybe we're just...
I wouldn't necessarily agree with
vibe different
you
on
either.
this. Okay, here we go. Is Christmas pagan?
Is Christmas pagan?
Yeah, that's the question that we're covering today.
What was that? What was that accent?
I guess we'll find out in a minute. Is that his real accent, or was he doing a voice when he went, "Is Christmas pagan?"
We're seeing every year in those same
what accent was that?
questions coming up. Is Christmas just a pagan holiday?
God, I love stock footage. I love shitty stock footage.
Now, to be fair, actually, like, I don't know why, but like, there are loads of free stock footage websites, and they're just as good as some of the like premium ones, so called. Like there are actually some good stock footage websites, but they're like, yeah, it's 80 quid a year, and in return you get videos that aren't of you.
Should we even be celebrating
Okay.
Christmas?
You know, I hear that a lot, you know, especially things like the Christmas
Okay,
tree.
so-
Oh,
He was doing a voice. He's American. It's Christmas, pagan. I don't know why he did it in like a weird Scottish accent, but
I guess Americans are, known for their, decisions.
as a mostly Scottish person who's not really, I approve. What an amazing start.
that's pagan. You guys, you should
I'm
just
not
lock
Scottish.
yourselves in your house and just forget about Christmas. Tell me, what do you think?
It really goes back to this whole, just in terms of our culture today. You think about
But the tree is not Christian.
the West, right? We were
I mean, it was adopted, but
predominantly a biblical culture, a biblical worldview for so long, and then recently we've been shifting
Why was that? Why are we predominantly a biblical? Nobody like forced that on anyone, did they? I don't think so.
to that secular worldview, and so we've been seeing things like
Yeah, I mean, Native Americans,
Happy Holidays, trying to replace Merry Christmas, and we
Okay, well, Happy Holidays is once again been around for a long, long time, buddy. Also it refers to all religions, so, and all, like, just general festivals. So, like, if I was just like, well, Happy Christmas, just like, well, I don't celebrate Christmas, but I'm like, Happy Holidays. It means I can't just go, Happy Christmas. Oh, actually, Happy December Day. Happy birthday. I mean, there are so many different, like, you can have birthdays around Christmas time. You can have all these things. There's like, well, someone could be like, well, that's but if you say Happy Holidays, but that's just like, well, yeah, technically birthday is a holiday and Christmas is a holiday and all these other reasons, it's all a holiday,
and we've been seeing
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dear. I don't know which of these men is which. They've not had like an interview card. I guess I'm expected to know. Shall I look them up so I can then I can address them properly? Okay, the guy who did the accent is Bodie Hodge. So this must be Rob Webb. I bet if I type Rob Webb, it's going to come up with Robert Webb. Yeah, it is. Brilliant writer and comedian. Not the gentleman we're talking about. So this is Rob. Rob, darling, no offence intended. A little bit of offence intended, if I'm being honest. Anyone who says that people, they, society, whatever other is out there trying to destroy Christianity, are trying to eliminate saying Happy Christmas by replacing it with Happy Holidays.
For information, I say Happy Christmas to a lot of people. Not like, not of course if I know they don't celebrate Christmas, but I mean, like, because it's just like, yeah, like, what does it matter?
And
Happy Holidays is just more, obviously, if you are religious, then it's like, well, that's actually kind of offensive, if you know what I mean. To be like, oh, it's Christmas, we don't celebrate your, it's like, it's like, okay, well, that is offensive. But if you're talking to an atheist, why would an atheist care? It's like, okay, like, your tradition is pretty much stolen, so, yeah, who's closer to accuracy, basically you're celebrating pagan tradition. Anyway.
And it's saying that without irony, without taking the piss, they're fucking stupid. That's a dumb as rocks. I only read the Daily Mail level boomer opinion.
Oh, I think at this point, it's more the Daily Mail. It's the Daily Electric Wires.
Sorry, but nobody's
actually maybe not, because Benny's not. Like, oh, maybe, who knows?
Say Happy Christmas. If you want to especially piss off the fundamentalist in your life, who really thinks that they're taking away Christmas by forcing people to say Happy Holidays, you can get this satanic Happy Holidays jumper at emma-thorne.com. Nobody's taking away Christmas. I say both, and I'm not even Christian.
So
Lots of people say both. I see people say Happy Christmas everywhere. The only difference is that Happy Holidays is there as a more friendly and
it's been there for many, 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 many years. So
encompassing alternative in case
like, I'm
you
not
talk to somebody who doesn't celebrate Christmas. If you say Happy Holidays and that person celebrates Kwanzaa, you've covered all your bases and been polite.
Yeah.
Nobody's trying to destroy Christmas. We're just trying to be polite. This is a problem for Rob.
Xmas to try to take Christ out of Christmas.
Also, no offense, but like, to be honest, it'd be a bit weird to be like, oh yes, no, we all say Happy Christmas. We don't actually celebrate Christmas, though. None of us. Not one human on the planet celebrates Christmas. We all say Happy Christmas, though. For some weird reason. You know? It's like, okay, but if the person doesn't celebrate Christmas, isn't that worse? Wouldn't you say? Because they're basically lying to you, like, Happy Christmas. I don't really celebrate it. I kind of do. But not in that way, you know. Basically, the person is lying to you, surely. You know? Because if you're forcing someone from another religion to say Happy Christmas, it's like, well, you know, you're forcing them to lie to you. It just seems like it's a stupid idea. Anyway.
No surprise.
Nobody's saying Xmas to try and take Christ out of Christmas. It's just a stupid shortening. That's probably an American thing, because Americans like taking letters out of words.
No, actually it's not. Xmas came before Christmas.
Colours is spelt with a U, okay?
Is that they're also trying to say that Christmas is just a pagan holiday, we shouldn't bother with it.
Just think of the name Christmas.
Fuck off. No, they're not saying that. Halloween is a pagan holiday, you fucking moron. Actually, from my country's holiday festival, it's Irish in origin. And yeah, it's got an interesting history behind it. The Americans fucked it up, of course, but you know, no, that's not the actual Americans' fault. That's the business's fault that actually ran the thing. But you know, basically, that's the thing. It's a pagan holiday. You know, so is bonfire night.
You know, Christ Mass. It doesn't mean Mass. What it means is Christ celebration.
Yeah, so right there.
Yeah, I said that when I looked at the title of the video. Of course, Christmas isn't pagan. Christmas is celebrating the birth of Christ.
Once again, though, it's from pagan. So it's like if you slap brand on something, it doesn't matter. If you do something which is morally speaking, you will be told you cannot do that. That is not morally correct. But of course, once you do it legally, it's fine legally. But you know, I'm not. I think Christians are going to get in trouble for rebranding a pagan tradition, but they are still rebranding a Christian tradition, a pagan one. Sorry. You know. Anyway, back to the video.
That's basically obvious.
I should tell you, it's not a pagan holiday.
I love their tiny teeny Christmas tree. I do really love their tiny teeny Christmas tree. It's friggin' adorable.
It's a celebration of what Christ did. And that's one of the things that we have failed in our culture is remembering the reason for the season. We get so wrapped up.
He's the reason for the season. They said it. I love that phrase. It makes
season of November, December, and January. Funny that it wasn't even fucking born in November. January.
me laugh. I don't know why.
See what I get there.
Ah.
I know. We get so wrapped up with the Black Friday deals, with the office party.
Oh, this is actually an interesting take. Because, yeah, all the commercialism is bull. That's not in the Bible. And, in fact, commercialism in general is kind of like don't do that in the Bible. That's, you know, like, this is actually an interesting take. I generally don't see this from people. You see, and I fucking bet you, they're not going to go that far. They're not going to go that far to actually honestly tell people that actually all of this capitalism sort of, I own this because I do. That's why. Oh, how was it originally? Oh, stealing. That's how it originally came into the category of ownership. So that's right. You know, you're not gonna say that, are you? That you know.
With the Christmas breaks, you know, kids are off from school, but so many times we forget what the real reason of Christ was. That Christ stepped into history to then pay the ultimate price for our sin.
Okay, that your sin. You weren't fucking born, buddy.
But again and again, you know, around this time, we're always getting...
Well, yeah, but he stepped in to pay the ultimate price. Paying the ultimate price is Easter.
But also, the ultimate price, the reason behind that was because he was like, to the people, maybe we shouldn't support Rome, because when you give your tax to Rome, they don't deserve it, for one. And also, they use it to enforce their power on others and ourselves. So we're effectively paying for our own subjugation, which is fucked up. They did the same with, well, most empires do that, but like Rome was like, especially like, Rome was like, we do not care what religion you celebrate, what you do, blah, 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 but you do not disobey us, and you pay all taxes. So of course, when they see someone going, yeah, maybe we should not do because bad person, you know, that they're like, they're genocidal, like, Rome is a genocide, like, they commit genocide on a regular basis, right? Maybe we should just not allow them, possibly. And like, Romans went, okay, well, we can deal with you presently. And yeah. So, that's the ultimate price for what? Action? Yeah. Trying to get rid of Rome. So, that's basically it.
So, you know, people have kind of got a point there. Just if you're going to make that argument that we got to celebrate him because of his sacrifice, then that's what Easter is for, my dude. And Easter is a more important celebration to Christians. It's supposed to be.
Getting those same questions, is Christmas a pagan holiday?
When people
No.
I mean, I guess, okay, backtracking on my earlier point, I guess Easter is then fairly important, yeah.
You're asking the wrong question. Does Christmas have pagan origins? Yes.
But it's not of pagan origins. Once again, it is literally just, did you take this thing, slap your branding on it, and then just that? I literally mean, when that shop orders that own brand good, and they just have a thing, and all they do to make it their own is to slap their name on it. That is all, and that is the question. Is Christmas just a pagan holiday with Christ's name slapped on it?
Did historic Christianity adopt pagan celebrations to make Christmas more accessible, to make
Christianity more accessible?
more people celebrate Christmas?
Yeah, because they're like, okay, well, yeah, you know this fella here, who you celebrate? That's actually Jesus. Yeah, you almost got it right, guys. And it's just, we just need to do a little bit of corrections, and that's all. What? Yeah, it's a little bit of corrections, that's all. You just need to change over to I know you came really close, but that's it. You see, it's very easy to make the switch. So make the switch today at switchtochristianity.com. Anyway, that's the point, basically. It's, you know, you're just trying to make the person go, oh, look, this is very like our religion. Oh, yeah. Just switch over, you know?
Yes, that is a different question. Asking, is Christmas pagan, is fucking stupid. Because you're saying, is this Christian holiday non-Christian? No, obviously not. You're asking the wrong questions.
I would say pagan, though, in like, Halloween's pagan, all this stuff. But it's also...
And acting like the answer's obvious, because it is. Answers in Genesis are infuriating. They're really infuriating.
people say that, though,
I hate this laptop on his lap situation. It looks like it's about to fall off. It's giving me anxiety.
when they say, hey, Christmas is pagan, do we ever test them on it? Like, okay, well, what pagan holiday? You know, I've actually looked it up.
Oh, hold on. I was about to jump in. I thought he was giving me a test, and I was going to take this opportunity to talk
The German one.
about the pagan origins of Christmas. But Bodhi's going to tell us.
You know the one that would pop up the most? Saturnalia.
Mm-hmm.
They would say, oh, Christmas was born out of Saturnalia, this old Roman pagan holiday.
German.
Do you know what date it was?
Yeah, so it's December 17th to the 23rd, so it doesn't even overlap with Christmas to begin.
It's not even the same date.
Neither was the birth of Christ. Oh, yo, with the 25th, so don't be fucking sad.
It's 2 whole days different. Are they
Also,
trying
you
to
do know, right, the celebration of, like, Santa was on the 6th, right? Like, you're aware of that, correct? You know that, correct? Like, you're aware. That's when the celebration was. Not the 25th or the 24th or the 26th or whatever. The 6th.
Just say, because this is a stupid tactic, because what they're doing is they're trying to erase their own history, their own faith's history. Christianity did try to adopt other seasons' holidays. Like it happened with Halloween. All Hallows Eve was we talked about this at Halloween, but that was a Christianity adopting pagan celebrations because people were already committed to celebrating at that time of year, and so it was easier for them to encourage Christian celebrations. It's
Yeah.
the same with Christmas. Pretending that's not true is just erasing your own faith's history.
I think it's more about the fact that it's like, if you're like, oh yes, this tradition was entirely based around us trying to trick people into joining our religion, shall we say, then it doesn't look great for your religion. It's like, yeah, our entire religion is based off of basically changing our history to match up with other people's religions so we could just like convince them. Okay, so, but then what was the actual birthday of Christ? Alright, see, why don't you celebrate the real birthday of Christ?
That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. It's like, oh, it's not even. It was the 17th to the 23rd. So Saturnalia had nothing to do with it. Yeah, of course it did. It was a couple of days different.
Yeah.
The point is that people were already celebrating at that
And the
point
German
in
one as well.
December. We'll start with Saturnalia. Saturnalia is not the beginning, but because that's the thing that popped up most when Bodhi
From
searched
them.
for it, I guess we'll start with Saturnalia.
From them as well. Like, I don't know how reliable it's like, yes, this is the one we find the easiest to rebut. That's the one that popped up the most. We're not going to show that to you. We're just going to say it is.
Saturnalia was a Roman holiday season. Rome, obviously, winters weren't as harsh as in, places like Scandinavia, which we'll talk
Or
about in a
Berlin.
minute. They celebrated Saturnalia. It was a celebration of the god Saturn, who's responsible for agriculture, very important to the Romans. It began in the week leading up to the winter solstice and continued for a full month. While the official dates may have been the 17th to the 23rd, it was Roman, so it was very hedonistic. The sort of feasts and celebrations and whatnot went on for an entire month. Everything went fucking mental in Rome, basically. That's not the historian's explanation, but it basically did. They even they freed enslaved people and let them live as equals for a month, and everyone
That seems just... Don't you like... You're free for a month! I would probably try and run away, to be honest. Rome was not a nice place for a slave.
was drinking
Well,
and it was crazy.
for
A
most
good
of it.
time was had by all. Businesses closed, schools closed. It was, yeah, you can certainly see a lot of influences of
You could argue
Saturnalia
other places
in
were worse.
modern Christmas celebrations.
Like America.
There's more of the video left, so there's time, but Bodhi hasn't mentioned this yet. As well as Saturnalia, Romans also celebrated Juvenalia in December, or around the winter solstice. Juvenalia was a feast honouring the children of Rome. Members of the upper classes in Rome celebrated Mithra on, guess when? December 25th. Mithra was apparently the god of the unconquerable sun. Mithra's birthday was the most important celebration in the Roman calendar at the time, the 25th of December. So, for Bodhi to be like, well, Romans celebrated Saturnalia, which is not on the 25th, he's just ignoring the more important celebration that was on the 25th. Let's talk about Yule quickly. In Scandinavia, the Norse celebrated Yule from December 21st, the winter solstice. I'll put a bunch of links down below as always. This is interesting from history.com. In recognition of the return of the
Which
sun,
is not always reliable, to be fair.
fathers and sons would bring home large logs which they would set on fire. The people would feast until the log burned out, which could take as many as 12 days. The Norse believed that each spark from the fire represented a new pig or calf that would be born during the coming year. At this time in the winter in Europe, a lot of cattle and stuff were slaughtered so that they wouldn't have to be fed through the winter, which made it a great time for feasting and celebration.
Yeah,
And
because that's going to go off.
more importantly, to a lot of people, all the beer and wine that had been made earlier in the year was now fermented and ready to drink. In Germany, people honoured the pagan god Odin during the midwinter holiday.
Yeah.
Germans were terrified of Odin as they believed he made nocturnal flights through the sky to observe his people and then decide who would prosper or perish. Because of his presence, many people chose to stay inside. Cool. Freaky. There's an air of Krampus about Odin. I have more to say about Christianity adopting pagan celebrations, or at least having their celebrations at the same time of year. But I'm kind of hoping that Bodhi and Rob will go into that because they've been very brief so far and there's a lot of video left. So let's get back to the lads.
I'm in my second home, Allerdale,
Oh, this scam artist.
Scotland. Isn't it beautiful here?
Okay.
What's really exciting?
You know what's funny about these scam artists is that it's like, oh, like I saw this fella before. It was like, oh, you know, this fella thinks I didn't make £1 million trading, and you're like, yes, I have no doubt you could be a millionaire. Not from trading though, from scamming people. Fucking moron.
It's not even close.
And we also have Sol Invictus, that's the other claim, right?
Sol
That
Invictus?
they always say that Christmas was based on that. But really, if you actually look at when was Sol Invictus?
So, yeah, Sol Invictus, here's when it began, AD 274. Now, we have records of Christians celebrating Christmas prior to this time.
So really, if you think about it,
When was the Bible written? I ask you that.
Sol Invictus was likely just a pagan alternative for
Yeah.
Christmas.
I don't want to start any beef or nothing, but I mean, the way he's worded it means that he's not technically wrong, which is a very sneaky little tactic Answers in Genesis like to employ. So they're sort of right. Mithras, Sol Invictus, it was a Roman cult that wasn't adopted into official religion until it was 274 AD that the Emperor Aurelius made the Mithras cult an official part of the religion.
The cult of Bacchus as well was fucking like.
But it existed before then. Likewise, while some Christian sects, many of which probably would have been considered heretical, might have celebrated Jesus' birth before Christmas became Christmas, Christmas did not exist as a Christian celebration on the 25th of December until Pope Julius I chose it. That was in the 4th century. He died in 352 AD.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly when.
And that's the point. Christmas was not on the 25th. Anyway.
He made the 25th of December an
'Cause it wasn't.
official celebration of Jesus' birth. But yeah, however you look at it, the Mithras worship came first. It was official first. There might have been some Christians celebrating Jesus' birthday just as earlier than 247 AD there were Roman cults and groups worshipping Mithras. Unless you've got a magic time machine that can prove that there was some kind of majority Christmas celebration about Jesus before they knew of Mithras, that's just not true. It's just very close to fake news, I will say.
Well, you know, another one is the winter solstice. So I've had people say, hold it, Bodhi Christmas came out of the winter solstice. You know.
Now, the winter solstice is just, oh god, Bodhi. I fear for Bodhi and his research skills and whatever else he's doing on Answers in Genesis, because he's either being deliberately obtuse and wrong in the way that he's saying things, or he's just bad at research. I'm not sure. The winter solstice is the point at which either of the Earth's poles reaches its maximum tilt away from the sun. It's not a religious thing on its own. Many cultures celebrated the winter solstice. Those Roman and pagan and Norse traditions that we looked at were celebrated at those times of year because of the winter solstice. But the winter solstice itself is a planetary phenomenon. It's not a religious thing.
Yeah.
It's not that doesn't make sense.
You know,
here's the thing, and here's where it becomes probably.
You know, like back, I think winter solstice will be the oldest thing of all, seeing as it's the planet moving.
Dramatic and confusing for me because I don't know what they're trying to get at here. If you just say, no, there were no pagan origins of this and that and the other, Christianity was celebrating the birth of Jesus, long before it was even made official. It was always going to be in December for specific reasons. But there's never the I don't know if we'll cover this later in this video, and I'll regret mentioning it now, but Jesus' date of birth is never mentioned in the Bible.
Yeah.
Many people think that it was probably in the spring, because why would you be herding in and shepherding in the winter?
Also,
the fact is,
the fact of putting in a census is relatively dodgy, because it's like, well, when did the Romans do the census then?
December 25th was chosen.
It's the same with like Joseph could have been a carpenter, a builder. Like, it's not known what job there was.
By Pope Julius I. It wasn't chosen by the historical record. It was a date picked that happened to be the date of a very important Roman celebration, and very close to some other pagan celebrations at that time of year. It was a popular time of year to celebrate. I don't understand what Christians would gain from denying that. It doesn't make any sense.
But at the same
Once
time,
again, it would kind of reduces the impact of Christmas as a celebration. Because you're like, oh yeah, it's just a branding exercise.
winter solstice, it ends by the 23rd. It's usually the 21st, 22nd. Second are the most common dates for that, so they would still miss it.
But whether
Again, he's just using this. They weren't on exactly December 25th. While he's deliberately avoided the big celebration that was on December 25th. That's just dishonest. That's just plain dishonesty. It's either dishonesty or stupidity, and I'm leaning towards the former.
whether Christmas actually falls within a pagan holiday time frame really is irrelevant. Just take, for example, here, let's say you're taking communion on a Sunday and it happens to fall on a pagan holiday like Halloween, for example, which is predominantly pagan.
We've done this. We've talked about Halloween. I've even mentioned it in this video. I'm not going into it. I think I have those same plastic spiders.
Are you going to not take communion on that day because of that? And then the big one I'm sure everyone's wondering about is, what about the...
That's kind of a good point. Like, that's what I mean when I'm saying...
Once again, though, when you have a branding exercise, it's not really inspiring. Like, oh yeah, no, this is bullshit. It's just nonsense. It's like, yeah. You know, it's like when dictators like rewrite their own history. It's like, okay, but this isn't true. You're just fucking lying. Like, we're not actually celebrating anything that happened. It's like, and this was a day that the leader marched with the revolutionaries on this. But that isn't, though. They didn't do that. Like, this didn't happen, okay? See, this is just a branding exercise. So I don't think necessarily you should be like, oh, no, we'll just celebrate it this time. Why? Oh, because of branding. I guess to be fair, you know, we don't know exactly when Jesus was born. So it's like, okay, so he's born in like, you know, February, April sort of time. Okay, so how do we... Okay, so we're going to have to pick a specific day or like time, because otherwise it's just like, okay, well, I mean, also very close to Easter, so you have to split them out of ways as well, you know. Ensure that you have a difference, you know.
Saying, like, it doesn't really matter what your religion is, whether you celebrate or not, because you could have people celebrating the Christmas season at the same time as Jewish people are celebrating Hanukkah, etc. Like, it kind of doesn't matter, right?
Also, Hanukkah is,
I
Also,
agree with
you know,
Rob on that one.
that's gonna
Christmas tree.
Oh, the Christmas tree.
Isn't that just a pagan astropole that we're sitting here celebrating?
Yes,
over?
in fact, I've had people bring up Jeremiah 10.
I just noticed, I'm sorry, this is a beautiful... This, like, fits perfectly with the aesthetic of each gentleman. I wonder if they've done that on purpose or if this is just how they are. Rob has his laptop dangerously dangling off of his lap. Bodhi has a clipboard. Tag yourself, I'm Bodhi. I also have a clipboard. But mine's fold out and has useful, pockets and things. Mine's better, is what I'm saying. I love that.
Oh.
He's compiled his research onto a clipboard. Even though his research seems to be, I googled it and the top thing that came up was this, and it wasn't even on December 25th. That's his level of research.
And then when I talk about, oh, well, these people, they're bringing trees into their house and here. Let me actually read it. Thus says the Lord, learn not the way of the nations, nor be dismayed at the signs of the heavens, because the nations are dismayed at them. For the customs of the peoples are vanity. A tree from the forest is cut down and worked with an axe by the hands of a craftsman. They decorate it with silver and gold. They fasten.
Germany. It was the tree comes from Germany. Basically, this is the problem with the Bible. Constantly added to, constantly changed, constantly translated, deliberately incorrectly in order to fit the narrative for, certain powerful people. Because if you're a king, keep in mind, and you have power to basically kill someone. Someone comes in and say, okay, we want to do this new religion. Okay, so, but I'm going to kill you if you do that. And you go, oh, how about we write this religion so that it's just sort of like agrees with you, agrees with your views. People are just like, you know what I mean? And that's basically it. So basically, yeah, the tree comes from Germany. It was brought to England by the royal family. Is it George? I think it's George. I'm not sure which George it was. But yeah, I think it's George. And then it was kept in the royal family for a while, and then Victoria and Albert spread that to the English people, of course, around the world.
fasten it with hammer and nails so that it cannot move. So people say, look, they were bringing trees in and they were worshiping it and worshiping these false gods. And they say that's what Christians are doing when they bring a Christmas tree in.
Yeah, but just based on the passage you just read, it's not the tree itself, it's the hearts of the ones that were actually bowing down. They were using it for that false idol worship, really. So it wasn't the tree itself, it was the heart of the man.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't the thing they were saying. In the laws of the Bible where it says you can't mix different types of fabric together, it's about the heart of the person that wants to do that. So if you can do it if the heart is just come on, that's a little bit of bullshit, isn't it? Isn't that a little bit of bullshit? Yeah. God is very explicitly clear on idol worship. So if you're going to make that argument,
same with taking oaths, which is interesting because it's like, you know what, it's like, I swear to Almighty. It's like, okay, well that's not actually valid because the Bible forbids taking oaths. So
I'd say don't, but the fact is, it's just a tree. It's just a fun decorated tree. Nobody in the modern day is worshipping it, so who the fuck cares? Nobody is bringing a tree into their home and worshipping it. The reason people say that it's pagan and blah 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 is because it doesn't have anything to do with Jesus. People still do that. Christians still do that today because it's a fun thing to do with your family.
Yeah.
And you can make
like people put like, do Christians put up candles? Because the candles are bringing as well, and then of course you got Hanukkah as well. You know, there's separate things. Like, oh, what was it? I'm not sure. I think there's a thing where you put like fruit in the tree, or I'm not sure if it's fruit or candles, like actual candles. But I'm not sure where that's from. I should know, but yeah. But anyway, that's sort of a thing there, you know.
Make it religious. You can use, you know, angel ornaments and things. There's lots of ways to make a tree a sort of more religious thing. And it can be completely secular. The point is it's just a tree and it's just fun. So I guess I agree with them. But they're kind of misusing the Bible to, again, sort of deny the pagan aspect. And I don't know why. Here's just some fun facts about trees and things at Christmas. For many ancient peoples, evergreen boughs reminded them of all green plants that would grow again when the sun god was strong and summer would return. Ancient Egyptians worshipped a god called Ra.
Interestingly, unless you water a Christmas tree, it's not going to be green for long.
At the solstice, when Ra began to recover from his illness, the Egyptians filled their homes with green palm rushes, which symbolised for them the triumph of life over death. Early Romans obviously celebrated Saturnalia. That was to do with the god of agriculture. The solstice meant that soon farms and orchards and things would spring back to life and start being fruitful again. So to mark the occasion, they decorated their homes and temples with evergreen boughs. In Northern Europe, Druids, the priests of ancient Celts, decorated their temples with evergreen boughs as symbols of everlasting life. Vikings in Scandinavia thought that evergreens were the special plant of the sun god Balder. The modern Christmas tree tradition seems to be credited to Germany in the 16th century, when devout Christians brought decorated trees into their homes. Some built Christmas pyramids out of wood and decorated them with evergreens and candles if wood was scarce. So there you go. History seems to credit the sort of official start of this specific tree tradition to Christians anyway. So
yeah, but it's the same with like Santa. Like Santa was an actual person similar to Jesus, but like Santa was a Christian saint, but he wasn't in the Bible, you know. He was just a Christian.
What's Robin Bodie's problem?
Like the Bible says, the heart is deceitfully wicked above all things.
Right, and if you understand what was going on in these ancient pagan cultures, what they were doing, they were cutting down the tree. They weren't just taking the tree in. Remember, it went to the craftsmen. What did the craftsmen do? They used the axe, they cut it all up, and guess what? They formed it and they shaped it into their little gods. They put silver and gold on them.
Hey, buddy, you sound like such a fucking psychopath. The little gods! No! Sorry, I'm sorry for shouting there. That blew up the audio, I think. You know what I mean? It's like, what's with that?
It all up, and guess what? They formed it and they shaped it into their little gods. They put silver and gold on them. You had to carry them around, dust them off, put them up on your shelf. So it goes to show you they were worshiping actual idols. It had nothing to do with the tree.
And if you
it very much did, though.
Think about the flip side.
I don't know if that's always strictly true. I'm just going to blast past it.
Like, it very, very much did.
You know, if they were using it maybe to the glory of God, to honor God, we wouldn't be seeing this issue at all. So you think about it today.
Honor God's plural at times.
Today, Christians setting up the Christmas trees in the houses, they're not using it to bow down to false idols.
No, not at all.
But really,
That's basically exactly what I said. We agree.
Really, the way I look at it is we should be taking it back. We should be taking back these things
Okay, now you just sound like a fucking like far right Nazi.
and using it to the glory of God.
We should be taking back. She's like Brexit here. Oh wait, it's American.
The glory of God.
This is actually a great teaching moment, in
Right.
terms of if you're a parent, if you're a Christian parent, you can
This would have been such a great
Okay, well that just makes you sound like a cult.
opportunity for them to include the historic start of the tradition in Germany, where it was Christians bringing trees into their home. Wouldn't that have been a brilliant point for them to make? Who is in charge of research for answers in Genesis?
use the Christmas tree to then illustrate some of these
Right.
different themes of Christmas and Christ. And for example, you have the ornaments,
That's what
right?
I
You can
said.
say the ornaments are essentially the followers of Christ.
Originally the that's what, I think that's what it was. The baubles are actually replacements for actual fruit, I believe, because they used to put fruit on the tree, and then of course the problem is fruit rots. So and then that's what the baubles are now. Like the red is like that's a little bit like you're like apple, I guess, or that type of
Christ. And the tree represents Christ. But the ornaments have to stick to the tree, stick to Christ in order to have any value, because without that, they're going to be useless. The ornaments are just going to be...
Don't know where he's going with this. Don't know where he's going with this.
Okay, you've lost me. You fucking lost me, mate.
on the ground. They're not going to have any purpose. And of course, you have the star on top. You can talk about the star of Bethlehem. You can talk about Jesus being the morning star. And there's so many different teaching moments you can use with
Or it could just be astronomy.
the Christmas tree, plus with
Yeah.
the lights as well.
Like, a lot of, stars were used. And,
Well, you can talk about
like ancient Greek and Roman tradition was like if you were, if the gods liked you, or even in some cases if they didn't like you, which is weird, they like put you in the sky as stars. So that one was weird actually, because it's just like because obviously most of Rome, like, that's the thing, like Roman religion, most of it comes from Greek. And it's a bit weird. It's like, yes, and they were punished by being put in the stars, and then this person was rewarded by being put in the stars. It seems like a contradiction, but I guess a bit weird.
Jesus being the light of the world.
If you just look at the tree itself, this goes back to an old German tradition. They would
Oh.
bring these in to represent
did it.
life. Here it is in the
Apologies.
middle. If you've ever been to Germany in the wintertime, which I've not, but in North America it's very similar, right?
If you've ever been to Germany in the wintertime, I mean, come on. I mean, I haven't, but...
It can be cold, it can be pretty miserable. And they cut down these evergreen trees and they bring it into their house, and they do that to represent life. Just saying, hey, even though winter's here, there's life. And here we are in a sin-cursed and broken world, and yet here's Christ, who is
No, yeah, it's just because life is depressing. And the only way to make it not depressing is to crush others. It's like, oh, you're successful. Great for you. But also fuck you, because all those people you harmed them. So,
who is ultimate life. That's who we cling to.
And then the other one we hear all the time is, well, should Christians even bother with celebrating Christmas? I mean, in the Bible, Jesus Christ never said we should honor his birth, right?
We know
Here we go. It's going to be fundamentalist Protestants versus Jehovah's Witnesses.
I actually looked that up. Ephraim the Syrian, about AD 300, points out that everyone honors the day of their birth.
What did he say? Did it cut out a word, or did I miss it?
Never said we should honor his birth, right?
Okay.
I actually looked that up. Ephraim the Syrian, about AD 300, points out that everyone honors the day of their birth. And
everyone on earth honors. That is not true. At all. It's not true now, and it has never been true, because it's ultimately, how the fuck do you know the day of your birth? If you're a hermit living in the middle of nowhere, you're the only one there, you hunt animals, and that's it. Like, you're able to eat, and you live to a ripe old age and everything, but you never actually go in contact with other people. Are you gonna go, yeah, I know the day of my birth, because I worked it out, I guess. But how? Someone doesn't tell you. You're not conscious of your memories for
there's good reason.
like 3
Everyone
years.
on Earth's the day of their birth. I'm thinking that probably he said celebrates or has or something, and they just accidentally cut it out in the edit. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, everyone on Earth is born. This is true.
Reasons for it. First off,
But like what he said was,
or how.
Honors the day of their birth. And actually look that up. Ephraim the Syrian, about AD 300, points out that everyone honors the day of their birth.
Honors. Like, no.
And there's good reason.
Everyone on Earth's the day of their birth. I'm thinking
It's the subtitles going up with honors.
that probably he said celebrates or has
That would be not true, though.
or something, and they just
It'd be weird if it's like, everyone has a day of birth. I mean, technically, you could argue some people don't have, strictly speaking, a day. Because it's like, well, what happens if a pregnancy takes such a long time to go fully through that you begins in one day and ends in the other? Well, you go, well, obviously, it's the end point, right? That's the day you say. But technically speaking, well, you know, if you didn't care about the person giving birth, then you could just like, now we're just gonna rip it out. Yeah, fuck you, basically. You know, like, you could have that attitude, and then they would have a different birthday.
just accidentally cut it out in the edit. I'm
Before.
not entirely sure.
But of course, never do that.
Everyone on Earth is born. This is true.
Reasons for it. First off, it represents adulthood. You know, like when you move from a child to an adult, there's actually different phases and stages for, you know,
It's called puberty.
being
Well, yeah, but when the baby Jesus was born, he was still a baby.
able to go into the military. You have to be a certain age to do that, to pay.
What is he talking about? Actually, that's funny, isn't it? It's like the legal age to drink in America is above the legal age to join the military.
Your taxes, you have to be a certain age. And you know, the Bible has always been adamant about
What? What is being a
So you
certain
can murder people before you can drink.
age to pay your taxes got to do with celebrating
Oh god.
birthdays in the Bible. Bodhi's kind of lost me again on this one.
ages and how old people were. You know, even the very first man, Adam, he died at 930 years old because he kept track of how old he was.
Once again, I don't see how you can keep track without another person's help. Because, like, you know, how do you know? Like, what if your birthday, like you know, your actual birthday, like, it occurs, and we're talking about a year in the sense of, like, astronomy year. And that's the thing that people didn't know all the time. People had different ways of measuring years before we had the ability to tell. And that's the thing. Like, if you're there, you're like, okay. Like, what people didn't say was, like, they counted, like, you know, the winters, you know. So they knew roughly, oh, it's been 5 years. But also, you don't know what happens if there's a gap of 3 years in your memory. But you could have a really, 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 like, really unusual memory. Maybe you don't remember for 2 years. But now that's an additional year. Or maybe 4, you know, it's just like, without someone saying, oh, this was when you were born, because I know the seasons that passed. Because I know when the world went. But then you have all. Anyway, it doesn't really make much sense.
And, you know, there are a couple of instances in Scripture.
That's right, Adam died at 930 years old. We're going to bring that up casually and pretend that it's true.
Like, even if it was true, it wouldn't make much sense anyway. You can't work out your birthday without other people saying, well, it was for 3 years before. It's your birthday. You're 3 now, and then you go, okay, I'm 3 now. Okay, and then go. Anyway, you can't even tell by the day because, you know, days aren't. You can't tell days, but, you know, like, because there's just like, well, it was 3 years ago. Today, no, it's 3 years.
It's true, and nobody's going to say a single thing.
Like, to keep track of that, you need to
birthday
announce.
celebrations were
Check that
actually
first.
mentioned, and they weren't always great people. You know, Herod, for example. But that doesn't mean other people
That's the
mentioned, and they weren't always great people. You know, Herod, for example. But
Yeah, Puppet King.
that doesn't mean other people.
That's the Jehovah's Witness argument. The occasions where, which makes me still surprised that they bring it up, because yeah, the occasions where birthdays are celebrated in the Bible, it's the bad guys that's celebrating.
To be fair, Herod is a puppet, not like, okay, obviously a bad person, but you know what I mean. Like, if someone's a puppet, they're not gonna be like, no, I'm intentionally evil. Nah, it's just like, you either do this or you get chopped. Like, the Romans are telling you, here's a nice position for you. Now, if you disobey us at any moment, we will kill you. Because you are the little leader. You know? You're the little leader there, and you obey us. Otherwise, so, you know, to be fair to Herod, although he was obviously an evil little bastard, but you know what I mean? To be fair to him, He was only following orders, so that's the argument of a Nazi. So maybe don't have that argument. It's like, hey, you could try running away. It would be more uncomfortable for you. But it's not like, oh yeah, well, this would inconvenience me to disobey the Romans. They're asking you to murder people who disobey them. So, like...
their birthdays. So it's interesting to mention.
People weren't doing it as well.
I was just thinking about the fallacious nature of that claim that, Christ never said we should be honoring his birth, but he also never said we can't, that we shouldn't. And
yeah, that's fair. It's like, you're not going to go, oh yeah, like, this thing was never mentioned. Also, you wouldn't know, sure. He could have said it. It's just someone was just like, I don't really like that. I don't agree with that. Remove that from the Bible now. There we are. That's gone now. No. Because, a lot of editing has been into the Bible over the years. Awful stuff, but
And
That's also basically what I said. Like, there's no rule in the Bible that says you shouldn't. There's nothing remotely that says you shouldn't. There's nothing to suggest that celebrating a birthday...
I mean, there's nothing remotely in the Bible that says you shouldn't be, like, you can't be gay. But,
birthday is bad in the Bible. Apologies to Jehovah's Witnesses, but that's just kind of bullshit. Have a little cake and a card. Like, it's not... God doesn't care. Your salvation does not rest on...
To be fair, I think birthdays are a bit,
whether or not you have a cupcake on your birthday.
in the first place.
Rich for me to say I know, because I don't believe in salvation or God. Sorry.
So you see that double standard there, and even we have the angels celebrating the event. We have them.
The actual night.
We have the actual night, and they were praising and saying all these great things. And
Right. You look at Luke chapter 2, verse.
The birth of Jesus was a huge deal in the Bible as well. This is also I'm really with them on this one. Like, if you're talking about important...
Well, I mean, so is Lenin for, like, certain communists. Like the October Revolution. Well, October. That's another thing when it comes to dates, isn't it? That's the thing. It's like, yeah. You're in that position. You're just like, well, yeah. But,
moments in biblical history and important moments regarding the Savior, like, his birth was a huge fucking deal. There was all this prophecy around it. There were angels there. It was like it's a massive thing. There is a reason it's a big celebration. It's the birth of the Savior. There are more reasons to celebrate it than not, in my opinion.
Verse 8, the angels announced to the shepherds, hey, in Bethlehem, the child has been born. Go worship him.
And their source is...
I always try to remind people, we shouldn't be just remembering and honoring Christ on Christmas. We should be doing it every single day of the year. So why not also
Yeah, fair.
celebrate Christ on Christmas?
I think of Colossians 2, verses 16 and 17. Let no one judge you in food or in drink regarding a festival or a new moon or Sabbath, which are shadows of things to come, but the substance is in Christ. We have that freedom in Christ. See, freedom is a Christian thing. In fact, his rights are a Christian thing.
Wow.
I'm sorry, what the fuck? Ooh, okay, that is just not true in the slightest. Because inherently, to differentiate between a slave and a non-slave, you need to effectively give someone rights, don't you? Because otherwise, it's just like, but what's stopping you from just being a slave? Like, if someone is strong... If I'm a regular Roman guy going about the place, and some other Roman guy wants me to do something and they don't want to pay me for it, what to stop them from just forcing me to do it? Like a slave. Oh, yes, the law. The Roman government, like, no, you can't do that. You can use one of the slaves we have. Yeah. What I'm saying is inherently to have slaves and have a slave type of thing, you do need to have rights in order to be like, oh, yes, you've got these rights. The reason, so we can not have them for this person.
Oh, wow. That was a bold claim. I wasn't expecting it, and I don't know
Not
what
true.
to do with it. Freedom is a Christian thing. Rights are a Christian thing. I feel like this is just sort of this is just kind of the West has always been Christian, and therefore everything in our modern society...
Also by West. Doing it with West is a bit of an average thing, because it's severe, so, like... it's west of, yeah, west with the the map we use, but that's also inaccurate because it's a sphere, so west is a bit of an arbitrary thing, and also like from what angle? If you're like in Antarctica and you're saying west, okay, so you mean like west by on a compass, right? Okay. Okay, west. Okay, we'll say west on the compass then. So okay, that's fine, but I can keep going west. All I need to go is west, and I'll loop back on myself, cause it's a severe. So Anyway, to begin with, that's just a little thing about Westernism. Also, Westernism is kind of weird as well. Anyway, point basically about the West is that inherently it's a bit dodgy because, like, technically speaking, countries like Germany are not actually west of the center line in the maps that Westerners use, and America is. And America is only considered the Western style, for a couple hundred years before the Native Americans there, and they were not exactly so bad, as Westerners are.
We can thank Christianity for. I feel like it's just kind of that. I don't even know where to. That's another video on its own. Freedom and rights are a Christian thing.
They're not.
I don't know what to. Bodhi's throwing me for a loop here. Bodhi's making this a real roller coaster.
It's not.
Too. And the world constantly borrows these types of things. They borrow holidays. I love holidays. I love holy days, and the world borrows. The world.
I mean, to be honest, Billy, that just makes it seem like you're you want to have time off and stuff like that.
The world loves those.
I was going to say the
pagans love them.
atheists.
Sometimes gift giving. Why people give gifts? Well, that actually goes back to the wise men. Bringing gifts to the Lord, of course.
Again, I don't want to rain on Bodhi.
Yeah. Also, no offense meant to the wise men, but also pretty terrible gifts for a child. It's perfume, kind of like incense for a baby. Fantastic. The baby might be allergic to this, by the way. Like some people are allergic to incense. Like it actually gives them a reaction. So it's just like, yeah, the wise men actually almost killed Jesus when Jesus was a child, because they just started giving him like frankincense. It's just like what the fuck,
On Bodhi's parade, yes, the Christian tradition of gift giving on Christmas is very simply traced back to that story wherein the wise men gave gifts. They arrived with gifts for the newborn to celebrate. That's
also pretty shit gifts. Also the shepherds, okay, to be fair, the sheep depends how long the sheep is gonna live. If it's a lamb, it's like, okay, yeah, as long as you rear it enough, then yeah, it's just okay. Babies generally aren't able to eat meat for a while, so as long as the sheep will last a bit, then that's fine. But the old the old incense stuff, that was a bit like yeah, clearly you're not prepared for a baby then.
That's perfectly reasonable and correct. Saturnalia, going back to Rome, Saturnalia involved private gift giving.
Even so,
as well, after the feasts and all that,
yeah,
the wild party times, they exchanged private gifts. And again, much as Bodhi tried to sort of half pretend that Saturnalia didn't come first, it did. Saturnalia was there before Christmas. It doesn't matter because Christmas gift-giving traditions, have their own unique origin that makes perfect sense. But it was also...
Yeah, well, that'll be my excuse now whenever I give a bad present to someone. It's like, well, I just wanted to be in the spirit of, the wise men who gave incense to a child, a baby. Yeah. That's why so it's just like, I'm just,
It's not exclusively Christian.
Yeah.
Like rights and freedoms.
Christ is the ultimate
Also,
gift himself.
Or also, you could argue rights and freedoms are stripped away with certain Christians.
A culture where a lot of people have been
It's like rights and freedoms, like in America when everyone was free and there was only a couple of slaves, super free and Christian. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, well, first of all, even if Christianity did come up with the idea of rights and freedoms, you certainly didn't fucking keep it, did you?
Influenced by the world. I remember, I actually
Sorry.
We live in a society. This is like the culture is like the number one secret language, like red flag for these kind of Christians. All of them do it. Listen, like, watch a girl define video and take a shot every time they mention the culture. You will be wasted in 5 minutes. Actually, don't do it because it's bad for your health, and I don't want to be advocating for that.
was bringing an atheist to church one year. He came out to visit me as a guy I knew.
I don't want to be advocating for the culture. You will be do it. Language. This is
I
like
just got
Influenced by the world. I remember, I actually
we live. Do it. Waste.
was bringing us going to church, and
Right.
you know, he was here. He came out to visit me as a guy I knew from college, and you know, we had a great time. But I remember us going to church, and you know, he was excited to go to church, you know, even though he was definitely not a Christian. And
Bit weird.
now we go in there, and I remember the sermon. The pastor came up right away, and he said, "All right, let's go to the foundation of Christmas." And of course, he goes to the New Testament, so he really wasn't hitting the foundation of Christmas. There was so much Christianese, if I can say it, in the sermon that he was struggling to understand. I'm sitting there trying to explain things to him. But I still remember the question that he asked me after that. He's just like, you know, if God is perfect, why didn't he make the world perfect?
Well, my argument to that is, why would you? I mean, no offense, but like, what kind of argument is that? If God is perfect, why didn't he make... Oh, I didn't know. Because they weren't bothered. I mean, like, you know... if you're perfect at crafting, does that mean you have to make everything perfect? No. You know? Could I make this video better if I spent, you know, a lot longer on it, bought some software, bought some editing software, all that sort of stuff? Possibly. I mean, it would make the money back and everything. Would it make it better? Yeah, it would mean it would take me a couple of months, but, you know, possibly. But the thing is, I could also not. I could make the video worse than it is now, you know? And that's the thing. So inherently, the argument of, if this person's perfect, why isn't this thing they made perfect? It's like, oh, well, because not everything someone makes has to be perfect just because they are. You know. Also, because they're a god. Fuck you, you human. You are like a parasite sucking away at the blood, infesting the planet. Like, fuck you. You do not deserve a perfect world, because guess what? The world was much better before you fucking humans came along. You know? Before you started just wrecking everything. So yeah. Maybe don't make it worse, because what are we gonna do? Yeah, no, when the humans come along, they'll be, oh god, sorry, that'll be, there's not much point, is there? They're just gonna wreck it, so, making something perfect, there's not much point if someone's gonna wreck it. Like,
he did. That I had to explain that.
you know, like, if you're gonna, why would you make an intricate table if you know the entire purpose of it is that it's going to be burned, if there's no reason to make it intricate? You know? And the reason, and the decision to make it intricate could in fact mean it takes you longer than when the fire will be lit. So then it's like, okay, well then you're risking it not being there at all. So
yeah, he did. He made it perfect. It's like, well, why is...
He did. It's just he made people not perfect. Wait. No, he made everything perfect, including people. Except he did... Right, hold on. It's almost like that fundamental aspect of Christianity doesn't make any sense. He made everything perfect. It was the fall that ruined the planet. Obviously, God created the conditions that allowed the fall to happen. This aspect of Christianity, the fact that, and answers in Genesis cling to this because they are literalists, particularly about Genesis, which is one of the weirdest books of the Bible that I would say probably the fewest people take as literal. It's a really fun book to read.
also, what's very interesting is when language becomes very, like, you know, subjective. It's like yes and no, but it's like, okay, what does this mean? It could mean a lot of different things. So, you know, there are many variables it could go down.
To read, in my opinion, a lot of weird stuff happens. There's a lot you can gain from it metaphorically, But as soon as you have to take it literally, and you have to rationalize, honestly, just read Genesis for the way God behaves. He doesn't know everything. He's walking around like, Adam, where you at? What have you done? I feel like you're up to something. He doesn't know everything. He doesn't see everything. He's not like that at that point in the text. You then have to rationalize Genesis, if you believe in that as a literal, factual account. You have to rationalize that with a perfect God. And you can't. The two don't go together. So you have to basically say that God, in all his perfection, created people with free will, and that free will that he gave them, they abused because I guess they weren't perfect, even though God made them and he made everything. And why didn't he make the world perfect? Well, he did.
I wouldn't see why would you make a world perfect?
Except he didn't because of humans.
Like,
he gave
the ability to make something perfect does not mean what I'm repeating myself. What I'm saying is, just because you can make something perfect doesn't mean you always do or should.
He gave humanity the capacity to feel curious. He gave them curiosity. Then he put a tree down. He said, you've got to be good. The only important thing is that you're good. Now, I'm not going to tell you what being good is. You have no concept of what good or bad means. Here's a magical tree that if you eat from it, you will know what good and bad is. But if you eat from it, I'll ruin the world. And you and every human that comes after you will live in a shitty version of my perfect world because of the rules that I imposed. It's impossible to rationalize. You cannot rationalize that from a literalist perspective. That's why answers in Genesis...
Well, my answer to that is experiment. Yeah, let's see what they do. Jesus Christ. Look at that. They did. Just, come on. These people
sound fucking crazy when they talk about those beliefs.
Literally.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Let's get back to Christmas.
Why is it so bad? And I think sometimes we miss that. I think there's a lot of people been influenced by the world. They go out and they see all this death, this suffering, and they come into church on Christmas. Sometimes they show up twice, Christmas and Easter, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we have this big opportunity to be able to answer these tough questions.
Yeah.
Why?
They don't. They can't answer these questions. They say because of the fall. Ultimately, depending on which church you go to, I suppose, ultimately these things, if God is perfect, these things are all the result of God's actions. But if God's perfect, then they, and loving, and all loving and kind, then they shouldn't have happened.
Well, I mean, loving to what? If God is loving to the animals, he should smite all humans off. Every single one of them. I don't mean individually, because you did this thing. No, I mean every single one of them. Because surely, if you want to prevent all the animal pain from humans, just wipe all the humans out. Instantly. With one simple, just all gone. All gone. One go. Not slowly, not, you did this action, so you no. I mean every single one. Gone. In one go. Now, that would be smart, right? Because that would remove one of the main causes of animal suffering. Surely. You know what I mean? Like, why exactly would you be considered anything above other animals?
You can't answer that question. That's probably why.
Like, humans are bad people. Like, just in general, they just are bad. Then they range, obviously. I'm not saying everyone is like a Nazi or anything. No, but, people are bad in general. And they just range from being extremely bad to, just bad, So that's sort of just the thing. That's just a fact. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're this fella or this. It doesn't matter who you are, or you're me. See? You're me here. Doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, why exactly would you think that inherently you'd be the one to be loved? You are conscious of your evil actions most of the time. Animals are not. I'd be loving the animals, not humans. So if I was making the world a punishing place, but that's the problem though. It's not like you're not punishing animals, is it though? Humans wipe out animals on a regular basis. They torture them. So breed them and kill them for consumption. That's just the thing.
It's probably why most pastors don't waste
Doesn't
their
work.
time trying to answer a question that cannot be answered. With most Christians that are not on this weird literalist fundamentalist level, they have to boil it down to something like, we just don't understand God. God works in mysterious ways. He is beyond human comprehension, which is a far more sensical and reasonable answer than it was perfect. It was just he made a thing that made it not perfect.
Why did Christ become the babe in the manger? We don't start there. Let's go back to the actual foundation, why sin came into the world in the first place and why we needed a Savior.
That's a great point. This is the one time of the year, it's a great opportunity where unbelievers are going to be going to church, they're going to be going with their families, they're going to, they're going to be dragging into the service. Why not start with the foundation?
Once again, that makes your religion sound like a cult. Don't do that.
And start back with Genesis. And like you were saying, too many times.
Start with Genesis. We love Genesis. Take them to the Ark. Take them to the Creation Museum. Buy a season ticket. We promise it won't flood.
A lot of the churches, they just go back to Matthew chapter 1 or Luke chapter 1 rather than going back to the beginning.
I think there's something a bit rich here in criticizing churches for talking about the birth of Christ during their Christmas celebrations.
Yeah.
I feel like churches are pretty reasonable in doing that. I think these guys forget that most of the Christian world is not as hard focused, laser focused in on Genesis alone as they are. Most Christians aren't like that, bro.
To actually explain why Jesus had to step into history 2,000 years ago.
I feel left out not having my house.
People say, well, why did Jesus have to do it? They need to understand the theology behind it. I still remember thinking, a lot of the Jews in the Old Testament, they were looking forward to a Messiah showing up. But their idea of a Messiah was not the Messiah, right? They were thinking something smaller, right? They wanted a political leader to rescue them.
What the fuck? Jesus Christ! Sorry. Is the man he's the person that you have. He is your leader. He is your political leader. He is the person who said, let's fight against Rome. He is the person who said, let's not bow down to Rome. He is the person who was fucking killed by the Romans. My God. Look, I'm not a particularly religious. The reason why I wouldn't consider myself Christian is because I don't believe in everything in the Bible. But I have the history of Jesus Christ. Guess what the history is? The history is someone who tried to fight against Rome, and their argument against that was, let's kill them. That's what they did, because that's what they did to everyone who was riling up people against them, because they had one simple rule. You obey all the Romans, you do as they ask, and you pay your taxes, which is actually part of what you obey all the Romans. But if the Romans don't tell you to stop your religion, that's fine. If the Romans don't tell you if the Romans say, oh no, if the Romans don't tell you that you have to stop following this person, it's fine. But when the Romans do tell you, pay your taxes, obey us, do all this, and you don't, because someone is riling up, then guess what they do? They kill that person. So yes, you fucking moron, that's the point.
Rescue him from Rome, for example, or rescue him from the Greeks or whoever it might have been.
The Greeks? Pretty sure the Greeks were gone by that point, buddy. Crushed by the Romans.
But they didn't realize what we really needed was to be rescued from God himself and the wrath.
Yeah, but you're missing the entire point. Jesus Christ was the person who was trying to rescue them from that. The Jews were... That's the fucking point. The Jews that shifted into Christianity were people who were like, this is our Messiah. This is our person who is rescuing us from Rome. That's the point. This is what your religion is entirely based off of. Jesus.
The wrath of God that is upon us.
The person.
Oh, but he was perfect and all-loving. So we need rescuing from God by God in human form. This is the thing that always gets me about Christianity. If you take the book you take the books, again, I think it's a mistake to take the entire Bible as one text, but if you kind of take the books at more or less face value, lots of aspects of God and of the redemption story, the redemption of humanity, they're kind of sensical, right? You have this God who is incredibly powerful and strong. He's one of many gods at the time, and he's incredibly jealous of other gods. He can be violent and wrathful, and then he comes to Earth in human form and develops an understanding for humanity and becomes more loving and
why the fuck would you be more Jesus,
compassionate and saves the people? That makes perfect sense. As soon as you say he's always been all
Would it though make perfect sense? Like, look at humans. If you were an alien and you came down and you saw humans, you'd be like, God Almighty, these people are awful. They all are awful. Like, all of them. Look at them. Wouldn't exactly make you,
loving, and he's
loving,
completely unchangeable. That's a fundamental thing. He can never change in the slightest. He has always been how he is now. Then the Bible doesn't work. Suddenly the Bible stories don't make any fucking sense. And they could. They so easily could. But as soon as you get hung up on him being all powerful, all loving, perfect from, his timeless existence to now, it doesn't work. I just think that's a shame and a mistake.
Our sin. So the sights were set too low. When Christ became the babe in the manger, he didn't come in just to be a babe. He didn't come in just to live a perfect life. He came in ultimately to die on that cross.
And it all goes back
Hey,
to
that's...
Genesis. It goes back to when God created everything perfect. He created everything very good in the very beginning. But it was sin, it was Adam's disobedience that led to death for us.
But God created Adam, didn't he? So how did he create everything perfect? And yet create...
Okay, that sounds a bit, like... Don't say it like that. No, it's just,
a human capable of sin, which then brought down the world. Do you see what I mean when I say these questions cannot be answered? It's because
But inherently, when you're saying someone is perfect, you're not saying they're going to make everything. You're going to say, if they do something that is bad, like the thing they made is bad, they did it intentionally.
Nonsensical. Biblical literalism is crazy. It's just crazy. Read the... I urge you, I encourage you, do it over Christmas. Do it as a Christmas celebration. Read the Bible cover to cover. There are lots of interesting stories in there. Okay, you can skip some of it, gets fucking boring. Some of it is just lists of, especially the Old Testament, where they're just listing the names of everyone born into a certain family. Some of it can get really fucking boring. Some of it...
The Bible is around 70-something hours long. So good luck reading that over Christmas.
It's kind of irrelevant. Some of it's interesting and fun. Just read it cover to cover and see if the things that happen and the way God behaves and the things God does jive with the claims that people like this make about God. Because to me, it doesn't make sense at all.
For us all, like it says in Romans 5:12.
Atheist tells everyone to read the Bible for Christmas. That's a headline.
Sin came into the world through one.
It's famous. It's like the people who are like, like, I'm being cancelled. Also, I got like a massively increased following from all the far right, Nazis and, very right wing people. It's like, yeah, sure, you're being cancelled. How many more subscribers do you have now? Oh, that's... Seems like you aren't actually cancelled at all in any sense of fashion. Like, even by like 0.0001%. You actually were reverse cancelled. You were given more, so...
One man, death through sin, so death spread to all men because all sin.
Through one man. Created by whom?
And so all creation was cursed in that moment.
God was perfect. He made everything perfect. One of the things he made just happened to be capable of sin, which brought the world to its knees. Doesn't make sense.
But God in his mercy and his grace didn't leave us without hope. He gave us that first messianic promise, like it says in Genesis 3:15. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head and you shall bruise his heel. And so that's really what it goes back to. That's
once again, I would very much not trust, translations.
Why Jesus had to step into history, to be able to reverse the curse, to be able to restore, and that's what we look.
And here's just a sort of stupid, basic question. Why would God create a curse and at the exact same time be like, I'm gonna fix it? In years and years and years, I'm gonna fix it. I've already got it planned. What's the fucking point then? If he already knows exactly what's gonna happen.
Once again, experiment. Let's see what they do. Oh, God. I mean, I did promise, I guess.
It's like, I've decided in all my glory and all my loving wisdom to make people suffer for a specific amount of time, and then I'm going to take it away. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
sense.
Not actually
Right.
against
As
God.
Christians to the new heavens and the new earth that will be
Right.
one day restored. And that's why it goes back to even the Virgin Mary when she was told by an angel that she would bear a son and that they were to call him Jesus. And
I believe the Virgin Mary is mentioned more in like the Quran than it is in Christianity's texts. So yeah,
he would save his people from their sins to fulfill that prophecy, Isaiah 7:14.
I love looking at the names of Jesus, actually. God himself
What?
manifest in the flesh, to take on flesh, to die on that cross, because only God is in a position to take the infinite punishment from an infinite God.
What?
Yeah, only God can take the punishment that God laid down.
Wait,
It's
what?
almost like if you believe that, then everything is kind of fucking pointless. It's weird. It's weird, and then it gets into. Then you have this weird dichotomy between is there free will or is everything deterministic? If God can plan for this thing to happen in the future, then he knows everything that will happen, and it's a whole fucking mess as soon as you start to try and rationalize this type of fundamentalism.
Well,
It
the
doesn't.
question is, why did Jesus die on the cross? Romans.
It just doesn't work.
You know.
It doesn't work.
God.
That's the reason why
But at least they're able to enjoy their Christmas trees and shit. That's the important thing.
Jesus had to step into history to pay the ultimate price because, like the Bible says, Romans 6:23,
He had to step into history to pay the price that he set, making it all kind of redundant.
the wages of sin is death. We've all earned those wages. And I'm even wearing the shirt today. You know, we've all sinned. We're all on the naughty list. We've all
True.
fallen short of the glory of God. Romans chapter 3
True.
says, no one does good, no, not one. So that's why Jesus
True. Have to say, fair.
had to step into history to then take the ultimate price for our sin.
If only God was perfect.
Wait, are you saying then, like, if you are perfect, if there was a person, they wouldn't die? Is that what you're saying?
And had created a perfect world, a perfect creation, then we wouldn't have any of this sin nonsense. Wait.
Sins that we receive his
I
righteousness.
wouldn't necessarily call it sin nonsense. Like, you know, obviously there are many sins more than like, but like it's just bad things.
When we repent and believe in Jesus
Now,
Christ.
let me ask you this. Can there
Believe in, but what you mean, like believe he existed, or believe they existed? Like, you know, why would you say, oh yeah, Jesus Christ, oh yeah? Like if you don't believe they existed, well, that's not accurate, to be honest. Like, because we know existed, except slight correction, of course. You know.
Can there be pagan aspects and elements that Christians grab and borrow and bring into their Christian worship?
Well, it's kind of too late, Bodhi. There already are. You've just discussed how you're doing that with Christmas trees, even though they didn't really mention again, or at least not very much. They didn't really emphasize enough that the real Christmas tree origin was kind of started by Christmas trees. Started by Christians.
Not really.
We've been going too long. I've started to get
Started by Christians, but it's not in.
curious. Yeah, you've already
Also,
asked
not really. It's like,
answered this question. We've agreed that it's fine, and it's too late because it's already happened. You're doing it. Look at the way your room is decorated.
Things get deviated and
You're wearing Santa hats. That's not Christian.
Technically speaking, Santa was a Christian.
warped and destroyed.
Just it's not Christian. If you know what I mean? Like you know, it's like if someone is a Muslim and then they do something, you wouldn't just adopt that into your religion. Like, oh, this is religious. No. The person that's based off of was part of your religion. Not the same thing.
That's really the real critical issue here, and that's what really it's about.
Like, it's like, oh, this is a Christian tradition. No, it's a tradition that Christians celebrate. Slightly different.
Christians nowadays are missing the actual biblical point of celebrating Christmas. They're focusing more on, Santa Claus, Rudolph.
Okay, Rudolph is not at all.
Talk no man, these magical elves, and
Talk. I've never heard of that.
and sadly that has now taken the focus on so many people's lives rather than
Takes
like
more
we were talking. And sadly,
Are these subtitles? Are these like, generated by the person or the auto generated? Oh no, they're not auto generated. So I'll just see.
Sadly, that has now taken the Rudolph, these snowmen, these magical elves
What?
celebrating Christmas. They're
I'll just drag this over here.
focusing more on Santa Claus, Rudolph, these snowmen, these magical elves.
Talk. What? Okay, so but then wait, if Emma put in that, then they're saying honor though, right? So
And sadly, that has now taken the focus on so many people's lives rather than
Takes
like
them
we
away
were
from
talking
Christ.
about the actual real.
Well, if they're not Christian, then yeah. They're celebrating in a secular way. They're not thinking about Jesus
if you celebrate Santa, you're celebrating a Christian person.
Christ
Saint.
because they don't believe in Jesus Christ. They don't. It's not part of their lives. They're just secular.
I believe in Jesus Christ, just not as a
Reason
Son
of
of God.
Christmas is celebrating Christ. It's not just the birth of Christ, like we were talking about, but Christ stepping into history and taking that ultimate.
And even think of
No, stop saying that. That's what Easter is for. Easter already
Well,
exists.
technically speaking, like coming into existence would be stepping into history, because that's actually no, though. Actually, history is defined by, is it 20 years? Not sure. But anyway, that's a subjective term. Anyway, the point though is, at the end of the day, that he wasn't even born in December anyway. So like,
Exists. Easter exists and is more important. Christmas is not. Christmas is about celebrating the birth of Christ. Stop pretending that.
But once again, it wouldn't be an accurate celebration. It's like celebrating the birth of or a thing that a politician did if you've got a dictatorship, and that thing didn't happen. It's like, okay, but then what are we celebrating? We're just celebrating a made up thing, or we're celebrating a thing that didn't happen then. It happened at a different time. Like Stalin, for example, changed a lot of stuff. Like that's if you celebrate stuff. When we marched with the but he didn't though. It's like, well, that didn't happen, and that didn't happen at that time, and it's also things like, but then you're not actually celebrating it really correctly,
By extension, it's also about fine.
It'd be a bit like if you just started celebrating your birthday, 4 months before. It's like, okay, but why? But that's what you're doing.
It's about celebrating Jesus as
Sorry,
a
4
whole,
months early.
Jesus' life. But stop pretending it's about, therefore, his sacrifice, because Easter already exists. That's a thing. If it was about that, you wouldn't need Christmas, because Easter is already a thing.
Santa Claus. I mean, Santa Claus in today's culture is almost like,
Father Christmas. Thank you very much.
paganizing a great man. Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus. It's actually a corruption of his name. And of course, now he lives at the North Pole. He's the keeper of the naughty and the nice list. He can be everywhere at the same time. They're taking godly attributes and applying it.
I think the idea was that he gave gifts to people. That's where the idea comes from.
To this godly man. We have a
Interestingly, the red thing, apparently, it's like the red coat is actually coming from his red vestments. Is it?
handful of resources here that are great for Christmas, actually. First,
Oh,
the
God.
war on Christmas. There is a war on Christmas that's going on.
Okay, that's not true, is it?
Bodie's written a book, and he's going to advertise it to you right now. It's about the war on Christmas. I bet that's fucking awful. Maybe I'll
I bet too.
read it next year.
In our culture, a lot of aspects, a lot of people have forgotten who Christ is. We also have a little booklet called Happy Holidays. I love the title. You can buy these in bulk, actually. Great.
Oh god, it's like bring it down to your dungeon and give it all your saves.
Booklet talks about all these different Christian holidays that are surrounding Christmas. Even your local church, you can stamp your local information, pass these out. I'm Bodie,
Okay, that's.
and this is
Rocket Rob, we are
Rocket Rob? Is he trying to start that, or is that actually his Answers in Genesis sort of nickname?
our biblical
Rockets are not very religious, are they?
authority
I don't think it's very. It's like, well, are you trying to lead the planet?
ministry. We love giving you guys
You're supposed to die here, buddy.
answers for these type of questions regarding Christmas, but really
And the
we
rest
are
of us.
rooted in the gospel. We're all about proclaiming the name of
You're rooted in Genesis, actually. You're not rooted in the gospel. That's one of the fundamental problems with Answers in Genesis, is that they're hyper-focused on specifically the first book of the Old Testament. Weird. Weird. Well, there you go. That was Bodhi and Rob from Answers in Genesis.
Yeah.
Asking the question, is Christmas pagan, which is redundant and stupid.
I've already answered that.
But actually hitting a lot of the talking points that I wanted to cover, so we got to talk about the origins of Christmas. Yes, there were Roman and pagan celebrations that came before Christmas. December 25th was chosen as the date to celebrate Christmas by Pope Julius I in the 4th century. Now we're done listening to the lads, I can put my hat back on. My evil, satanic, black hat. I'll just read another snippet from history.com because I think this is sort of an important
I'm pretty sure they had black hats too.
Counterpoint to some of what...
just saying. I'm pretty sure, didn't they? Sorry, I know. Yeah. See, man's wearing a black hat, man's wearing a red hat. Anyway, that's just a little thing there.
Snippet from history.com because I think this is sort of an important counterpoint to some of what Bodhi and Rocket Rob were saying. By holding Christmas at the same time as traditional winter solstice festivals, church leaders increased the chances that Christmas would be properly embraced, but gave up the ability to dictate how it was celebrated. It's a necessary and fundamental part of Christian history, the history of Christian celebrations at the very least, that the Christian church specifically adopted this time of year due to existing celebrations.
Yeah.
It made it easier to convince people to celebrate Christmas.
And to join Christianity.
It's just reality. That's just fact. Denying the pagan origins of anything to do with Christmas.
But once again, I have this already. It's like if you have that argument of like, oh yeah, what's writing it says. If you admit that, it cheapens your religion because it's like, well, the majority of people who are in religion came in because of force and a branding exercise.
Especially because Saturnalia
doesn't really like, oh yeah, this was a branding exercise, so what? That's a good thing, is it? No, it's fucking not. That's what you do if you're a history student. You're like, okay, this thing, that's a thing. This is history. But if you're actually celebrating it, if you're actually going, this is when Christ was born, except no, actually, it wasn't.
Started on the 17th and went to the 23rd. It's not even on December 25th. Absurd. Exactly the usual kind of bullshit that I would expect from Answers in Genesis, but at least we got to learn some stuff about Christmas and Christmas trees and talk about the festive season. And yeah, the fundamental point that I want to make is that anyone can celebrate Christmas however they want. It is largely secular. It's also very easy to adapt some of the traditions that maybe don't have Christian origins into Christian metaphors, just like they were saying in the video. You can make it as religious or as secular as you like. As long as you're having fun and you're not hurting anyone, who cares? It just doesn't matter whether you say Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. Nobody with a rational mind gives a shit. Just have fun, be good, and that's all that matters. On that note, I would like to wish you a very happy holiday season.
Me
and
too.
I would like to give a big thank you and a shout out to my giant chickens and colossal quackers over on Patreon.
I am unfortunately don't have that money, but yeah, basically, if you want to go ahead and subscribe to my phone, the reason why I wasn't subscribed was because, well, they have endorsed a scam before, which I felt I don't want to support that. I've begun to unsubscribe and stop subscribing from people who do endorse scams, because I don't feel I should support people who do that. But yeah, if you want to go off to the channel and want to view this video, you can do that.
Little Christmas, or appropriate holiday season name here, and
Anyway.
I will see you very soon.
Yeah, if you want to do all those subscribing things, yeah, you can. All those things, those links, things will be in the description if you want them. Anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, goodbye. Yeah, well, look at that.